there's a geological border that comes together here. You have the Mount of Olives with the chalky soil, that nice white chalky soil, and then it comes right down here and it meets with Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is made up of this hard limestone. So down at the bottom of the mountain is all the kind of clusters of outcropping of limestone, and those areas are used for crushing of olives and pressing out of grapes. You find that in all agricultural places, like in Arbel. Some of you saw the ancient wine presses made from the limestone, just carved right out of the limestone. That's what happened here. The word Gethsemane is a Greek word or Greek pronunciation for the Hebrew Gat Shmanim, which means the pressing of the oil press. Okay? So in Jesus' time, the whole mountain was covered with olive trees. It was an agricultural area for Jerusalem. And then down below here, just down where these buildings begin, were the places, the limestone, the outcroppings that were carved and used for the pressing out of the olives. Now, Galileans were known to camp on the Mount of Olives when they came up to worship the Lord in Jerusalem 3 times a year. So if we think about that, we can think about Jesus from the time after he was dedicated in the temple, after his circumcision. Then for the 30 years, as we assume, every single year he was here 3 times a year. And where would he be? He would be on the Mount of Olives. So now we begin to understand why the Lord would be returning to the Mount of Olives, because it's a place that was designated by him just because of the intimate relationship that he had with this place. Now, Bethany is located over on the southern part of the Mount of Olives, and that's where his best friends lived, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. And so obviously they were friends of the family, and they would camp there. And so just imagine now, let's stretch our imaginations and try to think about Jesus as a boy, in all these years where we don't read about him, just running all over the place, knowing this mountain like the back of his hand. So on that night before he was taken, arrested, and crucified under Pontius Pilate, after the Passover meal, he came over here to pray. And that, if we think about that, if we understand his relationship to the Mount of Olives, we understand, of course, he'd come over here to pray because he knew this place best. I mean, this is where he could connect with the Father. It was here on this mountain. So it's really wonderful and interesting that this mountain is chosen by God as a place of his return. Now, it was prophesied even before Jesus was born that he's going to return to the Mount of Olives. So it's